Are we ready to go? So welcome everybody. I'm Councillor Sam Casey-Rareye. I'm chairing this scrutiny meeting of South Oxfordshire District Council this evening. We have straight into the agenda. Supposed to come shut the door. Okay, welcome everyone. So item number 1 was Chair's announcements, for which I don't have any announcements. And item 2 is apologies for absence. And then we seem to have everybody here, which is nice. Item 3, looking at the minutes of the last meeting. I see we've got Tony online now. So thank you. Hi, Tony. Minutes of the last meeting. So we want, has anybody got any comments on the minutes before we talk about whether to approve them or not?
No.
Any corrections? So can we have someone to propose?
I'm happy to propose those minutes for approval.
And seconder? Thank you, Councillor Topping. So we'll approve those minutes. Thank you, everybody. The next item is declarations of interest. To receive declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests, other registerable interests and non-registerable interests, or any conflicts of interest in respect of items on the agenda for this evening. I see none.
No.
Item 5 is urgent business. Don't think we've got any urgent business. No urgent business. And item 6 is public participation, but we don't have anybody registered to speak this evening. So we'll go straight into the substantive items, which is the first one is item 7, looking at the work schedule. And we've got a little bit of an update on the work schedule. We've taken off the SODC item, which was, we agreed a couple of meetings ago, was something that the Health Overview Scrutiny Committee would look at, and it's not something that we will be within our purview. And it's not on your on the public agenda, but we've had an item added, which is Berensfield Garden Village update and next steps, which is coming to is it coming to cabinet on the
It's supposed to cabinet in June.
in June. Okay. But we've put it on the 14th of April meeting. And are you all aware that we've got another meeting scheduled on the 14th of April with some items that have been that I've called in?
I'm away for that, so I
Okay.
won't be able to attend.
You can get some.
Yes, if you could get some of that.
Yeah.
Good. Any comments on the work plan? Did you have some comments, Ken? Ken?
Hear that?
Councillor Arlott?
On the work plan,
Yes.
I'm going to fill in the form.
You're going to fill in the form. You're going to add something.
You
Okay.
want to bring some topics or that you want to put on here, some reports.
You can share in the meeting.
And do you want to? No, I was saying you were saying it earlier.
It's helping.
No, I'll just fill in the form because I think there'll be no items.
Okay. Councillor Barlow?
Can I just check where we got to in the end with procurement strategy as well? I can't remember if did I need to put the form in for that? Did I do
You
that?
need to put the form in for
Right.
that. You might want to think about whether it's joint scrutiny. You might want to talk to Mark actually, whether
Yeah,
that's procurement strategy is a joint strategy. Is that
it is.
right?
It covers both South and Vale. It's probably more appropriate to go to joint scrutiny as an item,
Brilliant.
but please speak to the members of that committee, chairs of that committee.
And is it something that was approved by individual councils or was it approved?
Can't recall.
No,
I'd have
can't
to go
recall,
back.
because that will
It
be.
probably went through both cabinets at some point. in
Cabinets,
the
but not
past.
councils. Okay. No more comments on the work programme? Good. Okay. Let's move on. I think just from a chair's point of view, just in terms of what scrutiny does in the work programme, I would we have had a discussion about call-ins, and I will just urge, I suppose, the message to the leader of the council really that decisions, that the council officers really must take into account that period of time for a call-in, so that we don't feel rushed. I feel that there was one recently where we felt under pressure to not call it in really because there wasn't enough time. And I know we all know things happen, don't we? Things come across and things are sometimes out of control. But I just wanted to make that point actually, because I felt that sometimes there was a feeling that things hadn't been timetable as well as they could have been. Thank you. See that. Councillor Philip over this has come up. Good. Right, let's move on then. So we have reports of consideration, and that's item 8 is an update on recommendations from the previous SODC Scrutiny meetings. I haven't seen any updates on that for this meeting.
No, I'm just looking at your minutes of your last meeting. The item on the budget, there were 3 recommendations you made to South Cabinet, which was clear communication on the percentage of council tax that South Oxfordshire District Council levy against everybody else. That has been going out. It is a repeat campaign that we do every year. Has been social media that people may have picked up on as well. And obviously the council tax bill will be landing on people's doors and doormats over the last couple of weeks, so we'll see that as well. I understand that your last full council meeting there was consideration of the budget surplus and what you may or may not do with that. So that's been through that process as well. And the cabinet acknowledges the flooding needs of the district, which they did when they met. And the last one was, I think, concerning you all about challenging capital spend profiling as you go forward. That was noted as well.
But there's no substantive updates on that. They've just been taken forward as issues to be considered. Any comments on those by the committee? Councillor Arnott.
We'll just pick up on the last meeting on minute 125, purchase of housing, 10 million allocation. On page 5, it says reinvestigate the need for temporary and emergency accommodation in Henley-on-Thames and Tame. Well, I didn't even know it had been investigated anyway. There's no information anywhere in back papers where it mentions about where it had been investigated. And then the resolved item again goes on. The committee agreed to note the report with a request that the Cabinet Member for Housing and Planning revisit the temporary housing needs for Henley-on-Thames and Tame. We've gone back to this revisit, but there's been no information on, was there a need or wasn't there a need in Henley-on-Thames or Tame. The only thing I would do, I had a meeting with the CAB the other day, and I think if you're going to talk to anybody about the need for housing, that's the place to go to, and you'll be quite surprised.
So this was particularly for temporary housing.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I see Councillor Morgan, who's a cabinet member, has put his hand up. He's online. Tony.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I am still reviewing that with the officer concerned, Councillor Arlott, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. I can't answer about the initial review of this because I wasn't involved at that time, but it is a work in progress and we will get back to you soon. I would hope within the next 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. Shall we move on then to item 9, which is the report on the Arts Centre Action Plan update for the Cornerstone Art Centre. Dwayne.
Can I not declare that I am a member of the study, but that's purely for the cake experience?
Noted. Didn't overtake this sound from member song. I'll note that particularly. Thank you, Councillor Heritage here, and we've got 2 officers who support me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, members of the committee. I'm very pleased to introduce this update on the Cornerstone Development Action Plan for 25-26. The past year has been one of continued progress for Cornerstone Arts Centre, with clear evidence that our long-term strategic direction and strengthened leadership are delivering real results. We've seen successes across all major strategic areas. The strengthened staffing structure and the establishment of both the Officer Project Board and the Cornerstone Core Community Group have helped create a more coherent, community-centred approach to programming and engagement. Partnerships with the Arts Council England and National Lottery Heritage Fund have also deepened, and this is enabling successful funding applications that are already benefiting the wider cultural initiatives. Performance indicators tell a similarly positive story. You have the figures in the report pack, and you'll have seen that forecasts show that Cornerstone is on track to exceed several of its key targets this year. These include cost per user, value for money, ticket sales, space utilisation, audience satisfaction, and cafe and bar income. The success of the 2025 pantomime, Beauty and the Beast, is particularly encouraging. So not only did it outperform the previous year's production, bringing a net income of just short of £40,000, but it also brought in new audiences while strengthening loyalty among returning visitors. And I'll make a personal comment that it's really exciting to see the 2026 pantomime already advertised in Cornerstone's brochures. So it now feels evident throughout the Cornerstone experience that there is a strategic, professional, and very considered approach to marketing and operations. Operational improvements have also had a significant impact. The transfer of the marketing function to the Community Arts Service and the launch of Cornerstone's new website have laid the foundations for more targeted, data-driven audience development. And I've used the website myself to book tickets. It's hugely improved, a very user-friendly platform. The ongoing refinement of the food and beverage offer, alongside recommendations for a full cafe transformation, signal further potential for commercial growth. However, I have to be honest that despite these achievements, certain challenges do remain. Delays to the proposed capital works, especially those linked to the cafe and box office remodel, building improvements and the decarbonisation project, have slowed the ability to unlock the full benefits of the new operating model. Rising operational costs and inflationary pressures continue to impact the cafe's financial performance, which really underscores the importance of completing the scheduled capital works and adopting a more flexible and dynamic pricing strategy in the year ahead. Looking forward, the outlook for Cornerstone is highly promising. The continued delivery of the action plan provides a clear and structured pathway for strengthening financial sustainability, community engagement, and enhancing the quality of the visitor experience. The forthcoming capital improvements, which we're very much looking forward to, scheduled for completion this year, will be transformative, enabling more efficient operations, expanding revenue opportunities, and creating more welcoming and accessible public spaces. These improvements will also contribute to our climate ambitions through the major decarbonisation project, which is now underway. So in summary, Cornerstone is demonstrating strong momentum. With solid progress already achieved, several areas exceeding targets, clear plans in place, and key investments on the horizon, the Arts Centre is well positioned to continue growing both its community value and its financial resilience. And Cornerstone is now, in my opinion, and according to both the data in this report and the feedback from users, it's very much established as the community hub that it was intended to be, with much improved and continuously improving financial control and performance. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank our officers who've been dedicated and instrumental in Cornerstone's strong progress, as well as the staff who've delivered the excellent programming and whose hard work and energy contribute to ensuring the Centre's success. And I welcome Scrutiny's comments and observations on the progress that we've made to date.
Thank you very much. Does Daniel or Phil, would you like to add anything to that?
Nothing to add to this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so should we start with maybe some questions, but any comments, but maybe start with questions. I know that Councillor Barlow as diligently has sent him some questions ahead of time. Thank you very much. That's really helpful. But we'll go to Councillor Turner, shall we first?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I noticed in the report that you've been able to attract some more bigger names. Bill Bailey,
Yes.
the rest of it. You know, I've always been disappointed we couldn't expand their auditorium. But you managed to attract those names. Have you ever considered lost leaders to put the place on the map? I mean, they're quite well-known artists. I mean, because Oxfordshire is a hotbed of folk music, and people like a show of hands and things like that. Have you considered lost leaders, or was Bill Bailey a lost leader?
I'm not going to sort of like answer the financial side of that, if you like, but I will say that we do have an excellent, Cornerstone has an excellent folk scene offering, and that's something that's it's building a reputation for. As for lost leaders, I won't answer as to whether or not you consider that, although we do have some very, very good names on the programming now.
Yeah, I think I'll start, and then Daniel, I mean, if he wants to add something to it. The answer to that lies in the comment in the report around commercialisation. And commercialisation can go either way. We can do things that are high return, high value, and we can do things that are lost leaders but set us in the marketplace. We wouldn't do a lost leader unless we thought it was getting us somewhere or taking us to a better place. And we would do it for a commercial reason. That's why we say we're bringing some commercial and business acumen into the running of the building. Some of that will be the pricing, and some of that will be the tactical and strategic relationships and partnerships that we make. So a lost leader is certainly something we would consider, something we discuss at the time, but it'd have to be the right thing to do for the long-term success of the building. But yeah, so we certainly not off the table.
It just comes slightly back to obviously we have a very well-known folk club in Oxfordshire in Nettlebed, and they do have people I know. They must be lost leaders for them, because I know how much they charge. I know a lot about folk scene. So that might, you had Pete Bogferris, that was very good. But I just wonder if we could have some of the really well-known ones, like the Kate Rusbys of this world, to put the place even more on the map alongside a competitor, which is Nettlebed Folk Club.
I think the work that Daniel's done in the last 12 months has changed significantly the programming, and we kind of have strategically and tactically gone after things that will make the biggest change in the short term, because that was the kind of directive we were given. But in the longer term, we can certainly look at things like that. There are also some opportunities that I've accessed in the past where we've had things that have come in that again have been on the margins, say, of mainstream. But they've been supported by national organisations. So they've been lost leaders in a sense of what the ticket price might be discounted to get more people to see that kind of activity. But a national organisation has then supported it. So from a building point of view, we haven't lost out necessarily, but the people coming through to get a high volume of people, the price of ticket price has been discounted. So there's things like that we've done in the past around certain types of opera and certain kinds of ballet and certain kinds of where the National Theatre might step in and subsidise that. And there are some touring things that we could buy into that are in that kind of league. So yes, it's certainly something we look at.
Yeah, and I didn't mean just the folk scene. I mean, other sectors on around. That answers my question. Thank you, Sharon.
Councillor Khan, then I'll come to Councillor Topping and Councillor Barlow.
Well, firstly, thank you for bringing this report to the committee and putting all the details in there. And as you know, I'm a massive fan of Cornerstone and all the things you do, and I really enjoyed Beauty and the Beast pantomime. I've just got a couple of questions just in regards to the report. One of them is, and you sort of highlighted it, is that the cafe, and you said in the report, you're competing against other food outlets there. What are you going to do to improve that? Because are you going to be extending the opening hours? Are you going to have different types of food there? What are you going to do to get people to stay there for longer or spend more money there? And the other question I've got is, you revamped the membership package. How's that doing? You can answer those, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to. I will let you finish, but of course, but I'll just begin on the cafe project, because it's something that I am quite excited about. And it is something, the offer is discussed regularly in our community, our core group meetings, in terms of not just what the cafe is offering, but how to pitch it. I think the internal works that are due to be carried out are going to have a massive impact on the success of the food and beverage offer, partly because of the reconfiguration and the fact that it will make it easier for staff to move around the building, if you like, and that will have its own impact. But also with that, the actual food offer itself has been looked at, and I believe there have been some menu changes already as a kind of pilot, really, to test whether the new ideas will be popular and what to take forward when the capital works are carried out. But I don't know if you'd like to.
I mean, you kind of covered it off really well. Thank you. Just to say that we are the purpose is it's not so much big. The cafe, let's remember, is actually quite a popular space. If you go in there most days around lunchtime, there's quite a lot of people in there who enjoy that space. I think what we offer that other venues in the town centre don't offer is that welcoming space. We allow people, particularly like young mothers with their push chairs, young parents. We welcome groups, disability groups that use the space. You feel safe there, and they're happy to spend time there. And we don't probably rush them. We don't have that same kind of real sort of hard commercial approach, but we still do need to make the cafe work. And a lot of it is around cost. And as Councillor Heritage pointed out, we've done a big review of that now. And we're looking at things like the menu, but particularly the remodelling of that space will allow us to run both box office and the cafe bar and the whole front of house space with fewer staff. That's kind of the bottom line, fewer casual staff, reducing costs, making it much more efficient. Because although we can tweak the menu and we'll keep reviewing that and keep changing that, it's more about how the operating model as it stands now just doesn't allow for any significant financial improvement. It needs to be changed, and then when we've done that, then we should see a big improvement in the financial picture.
So in regards to the cafe area, are you trying to attract people who are coming to the shows, or are you trying to attract the casual person who just wants to spend a bit of time with their friends? What's the sort of target audience?
My understanding is, sorry, I don't want to sort of jump in, but it's very much both. But we have to also appreciate that this is an arts centre and not just a sort of commercial bar or cafe operation. So the hours of operation will sort of, probably necessarily be around the opening hours of the arts centre.
So you're not going to make
rather than it's a late night venue. Having said that, I am aware that this is something that as a group, the core community group and officers are constantly reviewing and to get the most out of the model.
Yeah. I think the approach you've taken to all of this is a gradual one. So as Phil mentioned, we've gradually addressed and tweaked programming, which is raising our profile, which is leading now to big the booking agents noticing us. So that's why we got Bill Bailey, for example, and some of the bigger folk names will come in as we improve our reputation and our image in the sector. And in a smaller scale way with the cafe and bar, we want to just get the actual operating model right as it stands. But then there is scope, as Councillor Heritage said, to then start exploring ideas to actually use that bar space as another venue for more kind of intimate, casual. We already have kind of like solo jazz musicians in there, and we have open mic nights and things like that. But we'd like to look at expanding that program, but we want to do it gradually rather than just rush into this and get it wrong, because it's an iterative kind of business really that we're in.
I think we've spent a lot of time talking about this one. It's a good subject for us. So I think when me and Daniel first looked at it, what we saw was a cafe environment that was cafe in the daytime, and in the evening time, sometimes it looked like you were walking into a theatre with a closed cafe.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is make it much more flexible space, so it leans into the daytime audience, but then we can reconfigure it in the evenings to have some things that are down there, like receptions, and sometimes it can be a milling area for people on their way into the theatre, but it feels as though it's part of the theatre offer in the evening, but in the daytime leans more into the daytime offer. So that's what we're trying to create, and by doing that with some of the operational knowledge of Daniel, we're making efficiencies. So instead of it being a loss leader in the conversation we're having, the daytime offer being a bit of a loss leader or just about break even, we can probably see some efficiencies with the box office, and therefore that makes it much more commercially sound to have the cafe in the daytime but it's got to look like the offer. And the offer in the daytime will be slightly different food-wise than it might be in the evening, or if we have receptions there and things like that. So it's getting that flexibility and getting it fit for purpose and looking like it's, doing the thing that it's supposed to be doing when it opens in for a show or for daytime.
And my second question was about the revamped membership package. How's that performing? What's the feedback?
Yeah.
Yes, you're welcome to. I know I've received some feedback through the core community group meetings, but you'll have been at the sharp end of that.
Yeah, the membership scheme had been in place since I think the centre opened and hadn't really been reviewed. So we reviewed it last year and we've tweaked it slightly, and we've seen not a massive increase, but I would say about 15% increase in take up on that. But what we've also done is look to expand it, because we felt that one of the core audience groups that we're missing is the kind of older teens to early 20s age group. And we thought, how could we attract them? So we're looking at things like a youth membership scheme, which we're hoping to launch quite soon. We've encouraged all staff to join as an internal perk as well. So in terms of the core membership, that's gradually growing, but we're looking at other ways of engaging with people through membership schemes, but in different kind of categories as well.
Okay.
I'm just going to butt in here actually before, because it's on a similar subject. So around the cafe and the food, there are a couple of things that I just wanted to check. Well, what was that? And I think it's really positive what you're doing. It sounds like you've really thought these things through really well. But it was just sort of in relation to the fact that Didcot's got lots of eateries and cafes and stuff like that. So just keeping that, which I think it's got at the moment quite its own USP, hasn't it? It's got its unique selling points. It's got sort of homemade, freshly made food, and it's got that nice, like you said, everyone's welcome, safe space. And also in relation to sort of we have a food strategy in South Oxfordshire, but we really do very much with it. But anyway, we have a food strategy. There's an Oxfordshire food strategy and tackling waste, and maybe there's a wide offer, including plant-based food, that sort of thing. So I just wondered if that was something that you were really keeping in mind.
And we have actually, it's a conversation that we've had, yes.
Yeah. Somebody asked that about 12 months ago, similar question, and about how we would recycle and do different things, and whether we were buying things locally and things. So it's in our mind.
Yeah, good. Nice to hear that. Thank you. That's topping.
Thank you. My wife and I are regular users of the Cornerstone. We love it. So far this year, I've been to 2 shows, Reginald D. Hunter and Support. The Support were fantastic. I was literally crying with laughter. It was one of the best evenings I've had for a long time. And it was completely full, which was great to see. And a different crowd, a different age group in there. In fact, there were people from, I would say, 18, 19, right the way through to people in their 60s, 70s and whatever, some of whom looked a little shocked by some of the humour, because it's sanitised when you see it on TV, and when you see it live, it's not. And I think some of them were slightly surprised by that, but it was great. The other thing I saw was The Fifth Step, which was one of the National Theatre productions. And this comes back to what Mocky was talking about with the catering. We were there in a group of 4. I believe the show started at 7. It was a bit too early for us to eat before, for whatever reason. And I think I had a council meeting as well, so I didn't get a chance to eat. And I was hoping to get something simple and modest to eat. And I did talk to the staff there and say, is there anything available in the evenings? And they said, no, nothing at all. So I ended up eating a sort of a bar of chocolate or something. But my suggestion would be that you might be able to offer paninis or something like that are chilled and just heated up for people, and like my little group of 4 who were desperate for something to eat. And that maybe that could be done without too much food wastage or whatever. So that was just one suggestion. Secondly, on classes, my wife is a regular at the classes that you hold, in particular the printing class, and was rather disappointed that that was cancelled in the autumn. I think she got one term this year, and she'd been for the previous 4 or 5 years with a very, very good teacher, much better than the teachers that she's had at other places, including in Oxford. And she just thought it was a shame to lose someone of that quality in the local arts centre. So that was just another suggestion. If there's any possibility of getting printing back, she'd be delighted. And lastly, I noted this cost per user amount, and I wondered when you come to that figure, is that the total cost of running the building divided by the number of people that come in to see a show? I was trying to work out
the total net cost of the building.
Total net cost.
Yeah, so it's total net cost of the building divided by the volume of users.
Right. And that net cost obviously doesn't include the cost of the artists who come in to perform.
It's all of the expenditure and all of the income minus netted off.
Right.
So it's the net cost of the kind of, I think it's about £500,000 we're talking about in the report.
Yes.
It's that divided by the amount of users. So what the report is showing us is that the cost hasn't gone down significantly yet. There's signs that it is, but the user base has gone up, and therefore the cost per user has come down.
Yeah, because I noticed it was very high to start off with, 121 and then 41, and it's now 25. How does that compare with other similar centres to this?
I think you've got it's not dissimilar to everywhere around the country, because we're actually have got the COVID effect running into now. So it's not a like for like 5 years that you're measuring there. So you've got to take that effect into consideration, and most theatres around the country will show this. But what it is showing is that we're now moving out of that period, and we're still progressing in the right direction. So that's really positive from our point of view.
Yeah. We also use the Barclays Bank, by the way. I wish they did more services. That's one other but that's not something that you can change. But I wish it was more like an actual bank.
Yeah.
I mean, it is helpful, and I do go there reasonably regularly. But I just wish they could also, you could also pay in money there and perhaps even get it out or whatever. It's just very limited what you can do there, unfortunately.
But we'll take on board your comment about the flexibility, the kind of cabinets and the chillers that we buy in as we go up, and for that kind of flexibility of service that you talked about, and also the continuity of some of the programme, because it's important with adults, but with children it's even more important that they see the same person regularly. So those kind of classes will certainly take that on board, what you said today.
I was just going to comment, if I may, that I think your comments about the cafe are quite pertinent. But I think this kind of demonstrates why it's so important that we can get to the next stage with the capital works, because if we were to be having this conversation in a few months' time, I think you'd find that the cafe offer and the menu offer would be very, very different to what you've experienced more recently. And with regards to the programming, although that's something we can take away, I actually emailed you earlier on today, Councillor Topham, because I remembered your wife mentioning the printing classes, and I was going to forward that on to Cornerstone. So that's something we can certainly follow up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll follow on from that question around the net position. Just wanted to understand, let's say table 7 and what was in the appendix as well. Because I might have just been a bit silent, but from what I can make out now, what you're saying is that in table 7, that's showing the net effect of income plus costs. So effectively, and that's where you get then the user figure from.
Yeah.
But it's effectively costing us £500,000 still to run that facility at the moment.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And what you're then measuring is whether, that's why we brought the balanced scorecard in last year, because what we were saying is in a public service building, there are other things at play, the value to the local community, the education and training and that kind of stuff, that people go to the theatre for the first time and then get involved in it, becomes a career for them. So there are lots of things at play, and that's why the balanced scorecard is so important. And also in the report, we've tried to point at things that in the last 12 months we've started down the track of, which will benefit the bottom line in future years, but we've only had 12 months. So it's iterative. It's got to move over the next couple of years. But the signs in the first year are as good as I would have expected them to have been.
Yes, so carry on.
That makes lots of sense. Thank you. Is there anywhere where you show the total income separately? Because I couldn't see it anywhere. And I was just curious about how the income's changed compared to the costs changing, just so that we kind of understand the dynamics that you're talking about. Because if we look at the net effect, you know, there's a difference, but it's not huge yet. And I get what you're saying about the timings, but it'd be quite interesting to see whether the cost base has come down significantly or whether that's driven by extra income, to show that, you know, the marketing efforts are working really well.
So I think what we do show in the report is that the income expenditure against the cafe and the income expenditure against the building itself are there, and it's just pulling those two together. And what we do show, we have tried to show that, I think, in the report.
Okay, forgive me, I didn't really spot that. And if anybody can point me towards that, that'd be great.
And there is a breakdown of the ticket sales and food and beverage income.
Yeah, so in Appendix 2,
Okay,
and it's on. I don't know what page it's on for you guys, because you get a consolidated. But in Appendix 2, it's got the income from the food and beverage sales, and it shows that over the period. It also talks about ticket sales in there and things like that. Okay, what we can provide. We'll have a look through and double check, and if there isn't, we'll give you that information. That's easy to send.
Thank you. And then, Chair, for me.
Yes.
And so then linked with that, one of the specifics was the dramatic change in terms of what looked like the net performance from the pantomime over the last 2 years, from 2,000 to 39,000, not the 9,000 I wrote in my email. And I was just curious about what had driven such a significant difference. I'm assuming the cost must have been so much smaller. But yeah, I'm just curious what had driven such a big difference over 2 years.
Is this on the ticket sales?
Yeah.
Well, in previous years, Cornerstone had never, as far as I'm aware, really offered a pantomime. They might have offered a winter or Christmas performance, but not a pantomime. So last year was a pilot, really, or 2024 was a pilot, and because this was introduced fairly late in the year, and there wasn't because the officers who joined the team and so on, and a new Cornerstone review, we wanted to see how successful a pantomime could be, but we weren't in a position at that point to, I suppose, to negotiate. We didn't have a proven track record of ticket sales. So the deal that was made with the production company at the time was very different to the new deal that went through the procurement process earlier on this year. So last year we didn't make money from the ticket sales. It was a pilot scheme, but we made money from the ancillary sales, from the toys and sweets and food and beverage. This year the ticket income is Cornerstone's, due to the agreement with the Polka Dot Productions, who will be putting on performance for the next 3 years plus, possibly a little bit longer. But it's given us the opportunity to not only take the income from those ticket sales, but be able to really market the pantomime and make it a kind of a regular event for Didcot.
So the difference you're seeing in the numbers is that in the first year we transferred the risk to the operator, but we couldn't share in the success because we didn't know how successful it would be. By year 2, because we have the numbers from year 1, we gave it to them, we transferred the risk to them, but of the ticket sales, they give us 29% back of every ticket sold. So that's where you're starting to see that 29% in the overall ticket sales is what that number is that you're seeing.
You explained that so much better than I did.
No, I added. Your answer was perfect.
It was right. So what you're saying is basically that's almost an example of the credibility of the organisation being shown in year 1, and a bit like the conversation about lost leaders or whatever,
Yeah.
but the risk profile is different. Whereas now you've got this opportunity, or we've got this opportunity to make more money from that because we've demonstrated the credibility.
And the converse of that is you think pantomime is going to be successful, so you give it away. And then somebody's running it for the next 5 years, and you've got lots of people going, everyone says it's great, but you're making no money out of it.
Yeah.
So that's why we had to do the first year to get the commercials in for the second year. Still, the outcome's the same. You still got a pantomime with lots of people coming, but you're now making more money out of it. And that's the commercialization, which is, I think, what you're alluding to.
Okay. News.
Do we have any more comments or questions?
I've got another one.
Okay,
7 more.
give anyone else?
Always.
Okay, let's
I
go
got
to Councillor
comment
Wayne.
rather than a question, right?
Or comment, okay.
And that is that I think that the atmosphere in Cornerstone has changed massively over the last few years. It's a far more welcoming place, it's a far busier place. Lots of community groups arranged to meet there. You mentioned the mother and baby group. There are other visually impaired group. There's an LGBT group. There's people use it as a meeting space now, which they wouldn't have done in the past. And I also think the shows are more accessible than they used to be. I used to love the idea that there was an art centre, but then I would look at the programme and think there's nothing here I actually want to go to see. Whereas now, see Dylan Moran. But yeah, there is that the building, the atmosphere, and the programme all seem much more accessible, and that would be for nothing if it wasn't also transferring into better financials. Because I think I said years ago, as a great fan of having an art centre in Deadshot, but we can't write a blank cheque for it. And I think that you've taken that on board, and the costs of it are, the net cost is coming down, is still a way to go, but it's on all of those things. These meetings shouldn't all be negative. I think we've got progress.
I think it's very positive. Councillor Carney.
Thank you, Chair. I totally agree. You know, you're showing loads of positive news here, so congratulations on that. But I just wanted a quick clarification or answer to this. One of the things that people have said to me before about Cornerstone isn't what Cornerstone is about, or what it delivers, or what it provides, but it's one of the reasons they tend not to go or stay a lot longer is the antisocial behaviour outside. So just want to know how you're overcoming that, or what have you done to deal with that, because that was becoming a big issue.
I don't have that local knowledge, I have to say.
You're absolutely right, Councillor Conley. It's been an ongoing issue. It's the courtyard outside, which just attracts young people hanging around. There's those stepped hunting areas as well. We just work really closely with the town centre, the Orchard Centre security are responsible for monitoring that. And we do work really closely with them and with local police as well. And on certain nights, we have our own security as well. We bring them in for big sellout nights, and when we have tributes and comedians, things like that. And we work with our colleagues in community safety as well and things like that. But it's not an easy fix. It's just one thing we're trying to do is actually attract some of these young people to use the space and come in. Hence my comment earlier about the young person membership scheme that we're looking at. We're working with, we've had meetings with Didcot Train. They had their takeover last year. I don't know if you're aware of that, which was a massive success. They took over the whole building and had parkour and art and digital stuff and all kinds of things going on. So we are really focused on that, and that's something we'd like to improve. But there's no silver bullet for that. And from your experience, you may have more to add. I don't know to that. No, really.
I just think the space lends itself to people wanted to come and hang around in that space. So I get that. It hasn't really come up much as a conversation. You know, when we were saying earlier on,
that's good.
All the things that we've talked about tonight, as I've said, we've been having conversations about. That's been quite good because we kind of like talking about this stuff. But we haven't talked about young people and that space. I think with lighting up the building and things like that, it'll change the space. It'll feel different. But it's a conversation that I think, you know, a part of tonight is getting your feedback and thoughts and that's something we haven't looked at much. So I think that's one we'll take away with us, and we'll have some chats about that and see whether, as we redesign those spaces and things, we think about how we engage with them in a positive way, and see how that works. But yeah, as Daniel was alluding to, I've spent a lot of time in that world doing that in some big city environments. So I've got some ideas, but yeah, let's go away and have a look at it and think it through.
I think that's really helpful feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to echo that. I think it's actually really positive that you've already thought about this as a change, turning it around into a positive thing, and to getting those young people in and working with. We've got training with some other organisations, aren't there? And I'd really urge that to have that positive thing, because we can hang around and say things like, "Oh, these youths, they're annoying and spoiling experience," but actually it's their space, isn't it? And thinking about it as a community asset for everyone. So great, thank you. Going back to Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Chair. Think about the Barclays room hire that Councillor Topping talked about earlier. I was just wondering, I'm imagining that they're one of the anchor tenants, if you like, because they're there, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. And I was curious about how that impacts the space utilisation and any changes, and also what they contribute from a financial point of view as well.
So I'll start with the financial point of view, because you asked it before. So I've got
that was the idea.
Go and ask Nick, that I think's up on the screen over there. And the answer is that obviously we know what that deal is, and we can share it with you, but because of the commercial sensitivity, we're not going to say it out loud in a public meeting. So after the meeting, I'll send that on you.
Thank you very much.
I don't know how it impacts with the programme overall.
Well, I think the question was what percentage of, and I'm not going to give that away, but it is a significant. It takes up one of the meeting spaces, but prior to that deal, and this predates Phil and I, that was in place. I can't take any credit for that, other than they're obviously really happy because they continued the deal. Is that they take up that space, but there was a big underutilization of meeting space use within that building. Now they're using that space. It's generating decent income for the venue, which helps support and reduce those costs that we've been talking about. So yeah, there's an impact that we lose a little bit of flexibility, but on the whole, it's a massive financial bonus to Cornerstone that we want to try and continue for as long as we can, really. And it's great. It just brings people into the building. We've had comment on that tonight, who come in and then they do their business, and then they sometimes stay for a coffee, and it has a knock-on effect. So we welcome it. It's good.
I just come in on that, actually, because I think there was a discussion a couple of years ago. I can't quite remember exactly about when this first started, when Barclays started coming in. But what would be really good, and what other councils have done across the country, is provide a general banking hub. Now, I know there's been some discussion. I've seen some notices about something like that happening in Didcot somewhere else. And you can answer that. But yes, as a community space, I'm in two minds about banking hubs. I think they're really good, but on the other hand, when you look at the profits that people like Barclays make, you think, why don't you just have a branch? But anyway, go on.
The question I'm going to ask was, how long is the arrangement with Barclays? Because there is a banking hub is due to open, and they're looking for a high street location from 17th of March next year. So I would guess that Barclays would probably won't want to continue the arrangement if there's banking hub that they can use it.
But that's not have to be in also.
Yeah, but can we disclose that now, or is that something?
You could disclose how long the arrangement is, but not the money aspect of it. But you can, if you know that.
But it's an annual renewal. So yeah, that could be the case in the future.
So there's flexibility for them to move out, but because we're kind of in a different place now, we might actually see taking that building, that part of the building back as a challenge, but one that we'd like to take on. So having them there is great, as Daniel said, but if they leave, that might not be the end of the world either.
I understand that room hire is far surpasses the level that Cornerstone has previously seen. So as you suggest, that could be a positive challenge.
Thank you. Go on.
Just thinking about the public service aspect of the building and the programming that we were touching on, I was wondering what conversations have been had about including in the programming things around the climate and ecological emergency, given that's so central to this council's mission, and things like that, other social issues like that, because we all know that drama or comedy or whatever can sometimes get across messages to people that facts definitely don't, because it turns us all off. And I just wondered, from a programming point of view, what kind of angles you think about those things from.
I can start, and then Daniel can come in if you
want to say to that.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, sorry.
When it comes to programming,
I think one of the things that we've started to do this year is look at what the social value is, as well as the entertainment value of the building. So we've got some things that are coming in this year that are starting to lean into the community cohesion element of what we might do as a council. So things like there's an interfaith conference taking place in the building. We've had to work kind of reasonably hard to kind of talk people into that, so that's coming along in the next couple of months. There's also a launch of a voluntary sector organisation, and they give money out to charities and things like that and to local causes. So we wanted that to come in so that the community and the council services are starting to work together. So we're starting to build these relationships and these kind of alliances with organisations, and we want them to come into the building. I think you've had some news recently about something else coming in, and it starts to set the building and the council in the centre of this kind of social value, as well as the entertainment value of it. If we can balance the two and bring the numbers down and the gross cost and the net cost of the building, then we're starting to kind of get more bang for our buck. So we are looking at those kind of things in the round, and community cohesion has started to come up. So that's one we're looking at this year.
I mean, in terms of, thanks for that. In terms of the specifics around programming, to cover key sort of messaging around climate, I'm not aware of that. We are kind of also beholden to what the market has to offer. So we are, Cornerstone has a main auditorium that's 200 in capacity, and we are offered lots and lots of different products throughout the year that we could program. We haven't seen a lot of that kind of, performances, productions around those key themes. We do see more around things like young people, around antisocial behaviour, drug abuse, bullying, that kind of thing. And they're kind of more theatre and education. And this one aspect of the work that we've been doing over the past year is improving our relationship with the local education sector as well, and looking at how we could maybe do joint projects with schools where they do some stuff at their school, but they also then have elements of that at Cornerstone as well. But I'm not aware of any kind of drama or theatre or companies that are doing specifically shows around climate change. If any of the members hear of those, and they please send anything like that our way, and we'll happily have that discussion with them. But around other key issues, particularly around young people, we do see that, and that's part of the programme. And we do have programming that relates to that as well. We do put on events and shows that cover off those key areas.
And I popped in last year to see a couple of the education theatre workshops. One was about men's health, and one was about relationships, violence in relationships. Both very thought-provoking. So on the wider footprint, I think there's a reasonable amount of thought going into it. But delivery, we kind of are picking it up as we go. As I said earlier on, we're trying to do the mainstream stuff, and then we're picking this up this year. But as I said, that community cohesion element is starting to come into some of the conferences that we're having over the next 3 or 4 months.
Very encouraging.
Any more comments or questions?
I'll ask one about the decarbonisation.
Go on, very quickly.
I'm just curious, because last year we talked about that, and it was kind of just about to happen when we had I can't remember when we had our last screening this, at least a year ago. And it was like really looking forward to it, and then it's obviously stalled. And I wonder what's changed to mean that it's not going to stall again.
I'm going to. I'm really pleased. It's definitely going ahead, and I know, but I will let you answer that one.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to
You can answer it.
Yeah, I thought I was definitely not going to answer.
No, I can answer it.
No, it's all right. It's all right. No, I'm fine with it. So So what happened was that the design went out last year in terms of the decarbonisation work, and when it came back, the prices were quite high, and it was the way in which the contractor was going to go about it, and therefore at that point we wanted to rethink it, and so we kind of pulled that back. We went back out to the market, and there's quite a bit of thinking about how the work would take place and where it would be based and how it would access the roof and things. So the price I think has now come in. We're about to go through that again. I think we're about to do that, aren't we?
We secured a contractual, I believe.
Secured contractor. And bear in mind, there's only some good windows from a theatre point of view that we want the work to take place in. So last year was when it kind of had a bit of a rethink, but then we ran into the winter programme and pantomime. So we only want it to really happen in this summer. So we kind of knew that we were not going to delay it, but we would want it in the window where it'd have the maximum benefit by doing the work, but the least amount of impact to our commercial kind of numbers and all the rest of it. So we think we're on the right track, and we think it'll take place in this summer window again this year.
There's no reason for it not to. I'm glad you answered that, Phil, just because I kept wanting to say, kept wanting to talk about roof access, and I didn't think I'd be able to word that very well, but I know that there were some complications with the project itself, and it had to be pulled back, and then
we've got great roof access now. That's what we've done. That's all done last year.
Because I probably had about 4 years of looking at the numbers after we did the decarb work, and I used to run swimming pools and theatres and different things. The swimming pools are quite high energy use, and one of the things that's important to know is that you're trying to reduce the amount of units or kilowatt per hours that you're using. It's not the price. Don't get fixated on the budget, because you can't affect the price of kilowatt units, but you can affect the amount of energy that you're using. So it's the energy that we're using. So when we come back and report it in future years, when the work done, it will be how many units or how we've balanced the units and the kilowatts per hour that we're using from the gas and the electric. So it's just to mention it really, because people used to get fixated on the budget rather than actually the energy we're using.
It is disappointing, but as I understand, the obstacles that we faced last year have been overcome now.
Yeah, it's great. That's really good. Really positive, actually. The detail.
Good to hear. Okay, so I think what I'll do is I'll propose that we note the report, and actually we really welcome the progress. I think it's a really positive report. I think the committee have made some comments to the cabinet member and to officers to look at, but actually continue to look at, because I think you're already doing some of this, to work on the food offer, the membership, the opening hours, keeping them in line with the policies and the approach that the council has, seeing it very much as a community asset. And I think the committee will be very much in support of seeing it as a community asset as well as commercialising it. We very much support the direction of travel. Would anybody like to second that if I propose that?
Can I offer one thing, Chair?
Yes.
If we, because I think what these guys were talking about on social value is particularly strong for me, and thinking about what we're trying to stand for as a council. So I'd almost like us to pull that out and really encourage the continuation of that, and for us as members to take you up on your offer if we find out about programming things that could fit alongside what we're going to talk about in a minute, I guess. I think that'd be really powerful. So I certainly appreciate what you're doing there. So
so we can insert, the community asset and its social value. So great.
Thank you.
So we're all happy with that? We all agree to that? That was the topping. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Very good.
We'll send you a thing.
That's great. Thanks very much.
Little time is great.
Yeah, does everybody want a little 3-minute comfort break?
3 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes.
Again, time now.
Sign that.
Right, so the next item is looking at the way ahead, the annual delivery plan for 26-27. And we're asked to consider the report from the head of policy and programmes, and we have Cabinet member Councillor Giles to talk to us, and I assume you've got some backup in the officers behind you on the screen. So go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, committee, for having me. It was
Behind you.
Sorry, it was
The panto was the last
the
one.
panto.
Oh, that was the last one, sorry.
and yeah, thank you to Tim and the team for preparing the report and putting everything together. 'Cause it's not an easy thing to do, covering the whole of the council's work. So, and I'm also just grateful to hear about the importance of paninis and pantomimes today as well. So I look forward to coming back in future too. But onto the plan itself. This is based upon the council's 25 to 29 plan. The 26-27 delivery plan is to what's before you today. It's obviously not gone through the full process yet, so we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts today. It includes 124 measures, 5 more than the current existing year, activities, outcomes and timeframes for implementing essentially the council plan. There's now a dashboard that I'm sure you're all very familiar with, which obviously gives a lot more accountability and transparency, and you can see the numbers at your fingertips. I would also add there's been obviously the challenges of local government centralisation, which has obviously impacted the some of the measures and all not only part of the report, but obviously it takes a lot of the government's time. And obviously today we saw another example of decentralisation with the Greater Oxford Plan. So obviously that's just something to bear in mind, and obviously that's all quite regrettable, really. There are sort of 5 priorities within this, which again come from the wider plan. Homes and infrastructure that meet local needs. So, a core part of that for us is delivering council houses and sustainable and affordable homes. Action on climate change and nature recovery, which, as you'll know, there's already been a significant reduction in the council's carbon emissions in recent years, but obviously we want to go further. Participation, accessibility and accountability. So that's accessible services for all, with a delivery plan that actually has a positive impact on every person with a protected characteristic, so every group with protected characteristics, I should say. Thriving, healthy and inclusive communities. So unlike the government's own inclusion strategy, we'll actually be trying to bring communities together, not driving them apart. And finally, financial stability and innovative transformation. So that's delivering quality services for local people, increasing community grants and, running a budget surplus. So that's the sort of the 5 top line priorities, and then obviously we've got all the measures that I refer to, and look forward to hearing your thoughts today.
Thank you. Tim, would you like to add anything to that, or should we go to questions or comments?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing much to add, but just I suppose to support Councillor Giles in terms of, as he's already said, this is obviously a combination of cross-cutting work from across the whole council. So I suppose with all the measures and the activities that will be in there, between him and myself, we probably won't be able to answer all questions. So if there are things that come out that require a little bit more detail, we can of course go back and seek any of that detail from the specific service area, if that would help the committee. But other than that, happy to take any other questions.
Thank you. Right then, have we got questions? Councillor Khan.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. I'm just going to just ask a very basic question, really. What's the point of this annual plan, and what's it actually showing? Because in a couple of years' time, SODC is not going to be around. So, what's the point of this?
Yeah. So if we go back, well, Councillor Ray was leader. We produced what we all think is a really positive strategy for the council and what we're trying to achieve for the community. And it's all well and good to say these things, but actually what we want to do each year is to say, well, how are we going to achieve that? And so, we have this strategy, and below that we have the plan we're talking about today for the coming year. And that aims to actually say to you and residents and everybody, well, these are as far as we can, these are the best measurements for trying to show how we can achieve that. And you can look at how we're doing and assess whether we're getting there. And I do take the point about local government reorganisation. It's out of our control as a council, as we know, and we'll find out later in the year where we're at. But I think it's an important thing to actually show the committee and residents this is actually what we're trying to achieve and how we're going about it.
I appreciate that, but again, the fundamental question will be, you've got some plans and you've got some visions, but you're not going to have time to deliver any of them.
Well, I think actually, bar.
So is this taking away officers' time to focus on other things?
I think, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think bar one of the actual measures within here, I think all of them are actually within the time frame of the council. Is that correct?
Yeah, to support that, I mean, there's a combination of things in there. So yes, as much as it's reflecting in terms of what was set out last year for a 4-year period, there are activities in there that actually as councils, we have to carry on and do with them while we're here as councils. But obviously in terms of with a lot of the other activities that will be in there, even if they look aspirational, they're things that we're trying to achieve. It will just be, it's about the ambition of what we're trying to do in the time that we're here. With whatever comes with the next iteration of local government reform that happens, it would be then something that I suppose all the contributing councils going into that will be able to then either review, and then it will be a thing of do they want to continue that or not. But I suppose it's just a case of we've got things that are in there that we need to deliver now. No one actually wants to say we're going to stop working on anything at the moment. There's still some important things that we need to make sure we do, especially our statutory responsibilities as the council. So those are reflected in there as best as possible.
So you are saying it's worth the officers' time?
Yes, we are.
Councillor Wayne.
To follow up on that, with our imminent demise, how important is it to ensure that we run through the tape, so to speak, if from an athletics point of view, that we don't just sort of think, oh, it's all going to end in a year's time. Let's put our feet up and have a nap. How important is this to keep people focused on getting through that finish line at staying at full speed?
I think very, because again, it holds us to account. I mean, it shows how transparent and how accountable we're willing to be as a cabinet and as the Liberal Democrat leadership of this council. And I think also from a legacy perspective, I mean, yourself, Councillor Rain, and I know Councillor Hope Rivers is on the call as well. I mean, this will be a shining light, I think, for Oxfordshire and beyond, as a council has been run incredibly well since the change of administration a few years back, from when, you know, they were going into reserves and putting out poorly managed budgets and poorly run services to actually really effective council being run really well. I think that reflect well, but in both in the year ahead and in the year when there's that transitional period. And I think it's very important that we stick to this as far as possible. We show that we can deliver, and I think residents will appreciate that.
Are there any comments on the specific measures and items in the plan?
I've just got my information really. In the sorry, I'm just looking for the heading. The measurement box in this document, there's lots and lots of X's where obviously measurements go.
Mm-hmm.
How often are those updated?
So on the actual chart where you can see the outcomes, I think the last update was done last month, if that's what you're referring to, in terms of the actual specific measures.
How we report it, yes.
Some are done annually, some are done more often. It will depend on the nature of it. It mentions that on, I think, on the document itself. So hopefully that's good.
And it is an annual delivery plan, so it's for the 26-27 year, isn't it? So,
Yeah,
so most of these you'll expect, confirm if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, these actions will be completed. This is within the wider council plan, but this is for next financial year.
Some go beyond that, I believe, in terms of the broad objective, but certainly they'll be reported on annually or quarterly, whatever it will
but
be.
They'll have targets for that year. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
They may go into the next year.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. You wanted to say something?
Just a comment to Marky. You've never known a government programme slip.
Yeah. Never.
I suppose. On page 32, equality implications, particularly for protected groups and so on. we don't have a quality of access to our services. Rural, as I've said many times before, rural people, my village has no means to get them to Didcot, for instance, unless they have their own transport. So we don't have the quality, and I really don't know what we can do to improve this because they're getting a bad deal, particularly younger people. I wonder what percent of, we've done a survey recently of what percentage of our residents have access to IT. The last time we did a survey that I can remember, it was about 20% didn't have access to any IT. And I wonder if that's improved or how we access those people and general access.
Yeah, well, I think that's a fair point. I mean, under the equalities implications, what we've done, and I think we're proud of this. We've managed to ensure there's going to be a positive impact on all people with protected characteristics, but we can and should try to go beyond that where possible, David. And you've obviously mentioned around those with restricted access, whether it's mobility-wise or transport or internet. And I'm happy to take that away and speak with officers if we have any information on that, whether there's anything more we can do. But clearly, things like transport are outside the control of this council, so there will be some limitations in that.
If it is still as high as the late teens, that people don't have IT access, then that's almost 20% of our residents we're not in touch with.
I don't know, so if you have anything to add on this. Sorry, did you hear me, Tim? Do you have anything to add on?
I didn't hear the question then, sorry.
Sorry, can I just, before
Sorry,
we
Chair.
repeat that, just go to councillor Philippa Rivers, who's put her hand up on that comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to assure that access is something that is very much on our minds, not just strictly speaking in terms of protected characteristics. And I think Cornerstone and the strategy development, the arts, culture and heritage strategy that is currently being developed with the help of some consultants very much looks at, because, you know, Councillor Turner did give the example of that, people not being able to get into Didcot, for example, but the strategy itself really places Cornerstone as the kind of hub, if you will, but very much looking at what is it that we can do to kind of get closer to communities. So actually provide some of these services closer to people to improve that access. And in terms of digital, one of the things that obviously, you know, the world and services are increasingly being digitized. And one of the assurances that we have is that by making encouraging those that can use digital access to do so, then we kind of make space available for people that do need that phone call, that need a little bit more of a personalized touch as well. So just kind of a couple of examples as to how we are approaching this, but I think there are others too.
Is there anything under that theme of, which one is it? Strategic priority, driving healthy and inclusive communities, that you could point out in relation to what Councillor Turner was saying? Because I'm just having a look through and there's some really great stuff there. Interesting. I don't see anything on IT access, for example, or what Councillor Philippa was saying, but if that's the general policy, but are there any particular actions that you want to bring out in relation to that?
Well, as I said already, I'm happy to take that away, but I mean, we obviously do have a call centre, so if people wish to call in rather than use the computer, then that's obviously an option available to them.
Can I comment on that one?
Yeah.
Councillor Charles is absolutely right. And if I take the example of garden waste, which colleagues will know, we just relaunched the scheme for 26-27. We pushed as many people online as possible, but we leave that door open for people to phone to get callbacks, so we can help them through that digital process as well. And we always remain that is our quality of access. Not everybody will have access to the internet because they're in poor areas of coverage or don't have a computer or a mobile phone. But that is our responsibility as a public sector body to make sure that quality of access remains open. So we use those routes wherever possible. I think the last figures I saw, Councillor Turner, was something like 10% of the UK population did not have access to internet. I think that's a few years ago. I've not seen it recently.
By the way, the call centre on the waste thing is very well.
Good. Thank you.
Councillor Topping.
Just one comment on just slightly moving the subject to the action on climate change and nature recovery. And I hope that I haven't missed it, but I read it quite carefully. Given that the majority of land outside the towns and the villages is farmed land, and given how important farmers are in terms of the overall delivery of biodiversity and our general environment that we all live in, I was slightly surprised not to see any reference at all to farmers in that section. But did I miss something? Did I not read it properly?
Well, I'm happy to reassure you under the section Thriving, Healthy and Inclusive Communities, it specifically references championing both local businesses and local food production. So I think it's covered in that area.
Yeah, but it didn't seem to come under the green one, the action on climate change and nature recovery, just given that they do own and control most of the land, certainly outside the villages and the towns, is in the hands of farmers, and therefore they hold a very important role in actually being able to implement and create any improvements that we might wish to see.
Well, I'm happy to take that away and consider whether anything should be shifted section or otherwise.
Just maybe something that we as a council could do something, more to engage with farmers, because we are a rural council. And I'm just slightly surprised that there was no reference to farmers at all. Not that I'm personally a farmer, but many of my friends are.
Well, as I say, it's in a different section in the same document. It's just
And I think Tim wants to come in on that.
Yeah, just to support Councillor Topping's comment there, and just to say, yes, as much as we probably want to, we're probably not going to be able to capture everything in the annual delivery plan as it is, but it does make reference to the Nature Climate Action Plan, which again is another level of plan that goes into a little bit more detail. And I suppose what I'm just trying to say is there will always be other pieces of work or other things that we're working on that may actually feature in other things. But what we're trying to capture, I suppose, with the annual delivery plan is that it's what's the main things that may be contributing towards the delivery of those priorities and objectives in the plan itself. You may just not see every specific thing in this particular document, but that's not to say it's not something that, as we always said, we can take it away and see specifically where it is, but there is work that does go on with our farmers in our area.
Thank you.
Councillor Arlott.
Yeah, unless Councillor Barlow's going to ask this question, I'll ask it for him. Can you explain what the community lottery scheme is?
Oh.
And how much do we make money on this, or?
It's been going for a long time.
Where do I buy a ticket? I'm a councillor.
So
To sign up.
you have stolen Councillor Barlow's thunder a little bit.
Yeah.
She's absolutely fine there.
Kindly
More than
submitted a question in advance on this. I think that your question was around number of tickets sold, what total value, and what stats we have. So not dissimilar. And what I'm advised that they're sold for £1 via the lottery website. And local charitable organisations can also sell tickets via their lottery page, and 50% of ticket sales then go directly to those organisations. Since 2018, when it opened, just over 300,000 tickets have been sold. This has generated just over 182,000 for voluntary and community sector organisations. And on the other query that Councillor Barlow had about the demographics of I think the gamblers, as you phrased it, there is no information. We don't have that.
I saw Maggie's hand, but it's gone down again. So okay, we'll move on. Councillor Ramsdale.
No, I'm sorry.
No, okay. Any other comments? I just wanted to really just make comments on. I mean, this is the annual plan, and I know that we talked about flooding in the budget plan as being, really important. This committee mentioned how important it was to this area. We have a big river that goes through floods. So really just that the technical services flood alleviation delivery that you've got in that. Presumably that's working closely with the county council. I mean, how does this figure with when you've got that our annual delivery plan was something that's important to flooding, and the flood authority is really the county council. I mean, if you just expand a little bit on that, what you expect to achieve this year on that. I mean, I think it's good that you're doing this number of flood and drainage alleviation schemes, but
well, clearly we work with the county council wherever we can on all manner of things. I mean, in terms of specifics of the flood alleviation schemes, you'll need to speak to the cabinet member responsible for that. Unless anyone on the call has anything to add, I don't.
Okay.
We have done some quite successful projects in South Africa.
We have, indeed.
With the county and the district working together, and the EA, a flood alleviation scheme in my village was has stopped 8 houses being flooded ever since that scheme was completed. And it totally cost about £90,000, and the 3 agencies paid thirds. So we have been successful.
Indeed.
Oh, sorry.
Can I just let Councillor Philip as the leader come in on that?
Yeah, the leader. Yeah, thank you so much. I was actually also going to offer an example from my ward, but we do have, it's a small team, but it's an excellent one of our drainage engineers. And what they're really able to do is pull on different agencies. As you know, some of the flooding issues are the responsibility of either county or landowners or EA or whatever. So it is quite a complex picture. And what our drainage engineers are able to do is really kind of knock on doors, get people to do site visits, and I'm sure Peter is about to come in with an example from his ward as well, but they're able to actually get some action and the surveying and all the works that are required. They are really, really responsive. And so if there is kind of long-standing flooding issues in some of your areas, I would strongly encourage you to do that. And I guess, the annual delivery plan will capture some of that work in the ways in which it is detailed. But yes, it is not just our responsibility. We do have some that county devolved to us, but ultimately it's about pulling these different stakeholders together to get things sorted.
Thank you, Gordon.
Exactly. Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, I mean, just the experience that I've had, and I've been working very closely with the officers in relation to Wheatley flooding. John Backley's team are the flood lead, and they work incredibly well with the county team. They're almost, to me, it feels like they're almost a seamless team. And also they work very closely with the Environment Agency. So I think they work very well together. The only thing I would say is that if you're involved in this sort of thing, you do need to identify who the flood lead is, because it can come from South Oxfordshire, I understand, or it can come from the county. So you need to make sure someone's leading it. But I've been really impressed by the way they've worked together.
Yes, and in my ward, it's been very impressive. So just in terms of the plan, I was just looking at the narrative and number of flood and drainage alleviation schemes facilitated. So you've got some measures, but I don't know if you've got any targets in that. But I'll leave you to go away on that, because you clearly need to talk to some of the officers on that. But thank you. Okay, Councillor Arlott.
Yeah, I think you'll like this one, Chairman. On page 41, 116 and 118, the Broadway, which I've been following that for ages, due to be complete in 2027. My question is, will there be an opening ceremony? And if so, will there be refreshments?
Perhaps Councillor Giles would like to commit to that.
It sounds a very reasonable request. I have to check in with officers down the line, though.
Thank you.
No promises then. Noted. Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Chair. We just been talking about decarbonisation of the cornerstone, and I just noticed I couldn't see that in the climate and nature action plan. I wonder if that should be included, or whether it's intentionally not in there, given I'm assuming it's a significant piece of decarbonisation activity. I only saw leisure facilities, and it may be that we're covering cornerstone as one of those, but I just thought I'd make that observation.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable point that I think we're obviously trying to refer to the assets that we either own or control, and that's clearly part of that. So I will take that away and double check that. But clearly, my view would be the intention would be to include that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, should we have one more and then I think try to back up. I looked at it. Oh, yeah, two. We'll wrap them together. Got one.
I think they might last ages. You know, I'm like preamble for hours. Ethical investment is mentioned, I think on page 43, and one of the headings is, yeah, that's right, action on financial stability and innovative transformation. One of the headings is exercise responsible and ethical investment. I couldn't see how we're holding ourselves to account on that, though. There didn't seem to be a measure on it. I know we've talked about it on and off over the last couple of years, but I wonder how we're going to know if we've been doing that well, and how will that show up on this annual delivery plan scorecard? And again, if I've missed it, please tell me.
No, as Tim said, not everything is included on here. Happy again to take that point away though, and clarify with the team whether that's covered elsewhere in the work we do.
Yeah, I guess I just noted it because it was one of the three big headings. You know, it wasn't a time thing. That's why I drew my attention to it.
We did get a very accurate report on the pension funds investments, which is handled by the county for.
Yeah.
But that's not part of this plan, though. Is
No,
it?
no.
I guess you were saying it was possible.
It's the same question I think you're asking.
Yeah.
And Chair, I would just say that I think across all the work we do, we value being as ethical as we possibly can, and that's reflected in how we approach our inclusion, how we approach our approach to climate change, how we act just as a council as a whole. So I think that underpins a lot of what we do anyway. But again, we will take it away and see if anything should be in here specifically.
If you could, because while I understand what you're saying about, you know, your ethical approach to everything, it's a specific objective, isn't it, in financial stability, exercise responsible and ethical investment. So there's something very specific there that I think you were trying to bring out that was necessary in action that we could observe.
Yep.
Or see. Okay, so do we have a proposal on this? So I'll make a proposal and then see if someone can second it. So I think we should note the report. Thank you for bringing this to us. I think there's some comments that the committee made was on ensuring that the equalities and impact on equalities, which chimes with one of the strategic priorities on accessibility, is a priority. Thinking around nature recovery, how we're engaging with farmers, and something focusing on maybe some what are the targets on the flooding and how you work with other organisations along that, and lastly, what actions on the specific objective of exercise responsible ethical investment. Is that clear enough? Do we have a seconder on that waffle? Yes, Councillor Barlow. Everyone agreed on that? That's not too waffly. Good. Okay. So I think thank you for coming and presenting that report, and you don't have any further items, so you can close the meeting. Thank you.
Sure.